Good evening, Sioux Falls. I'd like to welcome you to tonight's City Council meeting. Tonight is Tuesday, September 7th, and we'd like to start with roll call, please.
Council members Brown.
Here.
Entman.
Here.
Erpenbach. Here. Jameson.
Here.
Litz.
Here.
Rolfing.
Here.
Aguilar. Here. Anderson.
Here.
Thank you, City Council, for all being here tonight. We appreciate it. We'd also like to welcome Pastor Bill Mitchell from Abiding Savior Free Lutheran Church. Pastor Bill will give us our invocation tonight, and then right after that, what we'd like you to do is just remain standing, and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I'd like to read from Scripture, Romans chapter 13, beginning with verse 1. Let every soul be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and the authorities that exist are appointed by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authority resists the ordinance of God, and those who resist will bring judgment on themselves. For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to evil. Do you want to be unafraid of the authority? Do what is good, and you will have praise from the same. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for tonight. We thank you for the grace that you have given unto us. We pray specifically for Mayor Huther as he would lead this city council. We pray for each council member, Father, that we not only pray for them specifically, but for their families. Would ask that you would be with them as well. Guide these men and women as they decide many issues on hand. We think of the schools, we think of teachers. Ask that you be with them throughout this school year. We think of the police officers and firefighters. Father, we pray that you would give protection unto them. We think of the various businesses that the City Council works with on a day-to-day basis. We think of our state leaders, our national leaders. Would ask that you would guide and direct them as well. And then we think of our senior citizens. And Lord Jesus, we would ask that you would be with them and help them through these troubled times. And then finally, Father, we do lift up our military. Our veterans would ask that you be with those in the military as they continue to serve our country. Again, Father, we thank you for tonight. Might it be guided by you. We ask it all in the precious name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for being here tonight. We do have two proclamations. I'd like to start off with Dr. Harriet Scott, who is a clinical director at the Helpline Center here in Sioux Falls. And Dr. Scott, welcome. Good to have you here. Whereas in the United States, more than 34,000 people die by suicide annually, and it is estimated that 6 million people became survivors after the suicide of a loved one in the last 25 years. And whereas the most recent statistics show that in the year 2008, there were 123 deaths by suicide in South Dakota. And whereas suicide is now the 9th leading cause of all deaths in the state of South Dakota, and the 4th leading cause of death among young adults from the ages of 15 to 24 in South Dakota. And whereas in the United States, one person completes suicide every 15.2 minutes. And whereas the stigma associated with mental illness discourages people at risk for suicide from seeking life-saving help, and further traumatizes family members and friends who have lost a loved one to suicide. And whereas the Helpline Center is the only crisis line in South Dakota accredited by the American Association of Suicidology and is dedicated to reducing the frequency of suicide attempts and deaths. and the pain of survivors affected by suicide of loved ones through their suicide prevention, intervention, and aftercare efforts. And whereas it has been acknowledged that suicide is a major health problem and support is needed for educational programs, research projects, and intervention services. Now, therefore, I am Mike Huther, Mayor of the City of Sioux Falls, do hereby proclaim September 5th through September 11th as Suicide Prevention Week in Sioux Falls. Dr. Scott, thank you on behalf of the people of Sioux Falls. I'd now like to welcome Bob Preloger from Augustana College. I'd like to welcome you here, Bob. Another proclamation. Whereas Augustana College was originally founded as Augustana Seminary on September 1st, 1860 in Chicago, Illinois. Its mission was to provide a faith-based education for Lutheran pastors, teachers, and musicians who would serve the country's growing Norwegian population. Whereas the name Augustana was drawn from the Augsburg Confession in 1530 during the time of the Reformation. The document's Latin designation was the Confessio Augustana, whereas Augustana serves 1,800 students from 28 states and 23 foreign countries, offers 53 majors in pre-professional specializations, and provides extensive leadership, undergraduate research, study abroad opportunities, and an honors program that supplement the curriculum. Whereas Augustana has 5 core values: Christian, liberal arts, excellence, community, and service that serve as the foundation for the college's academic and student life programs. Whereas Augustana provides students with the broad knowledge and skills necessary to succeed in today's global society and instills an understanding and the integrating of career and service is a paramount responsibility. Whereas 4,028 Augustana graduates presently reside right here in Sioux Falls and contribute to the betterment of this community as artists, healthcare professionals, business people, entrepreneurs, teachers, public servants, and religious officials, while upholding the highest levels of social and civic responsibility. Whereas the 2010-2011 academic year marks the 150th anniversary celebration of Augustana College. Now, therefore, I, Mike Huther, Mayor of the City of Sioux Falls, do hereby proclaim September 8th as Augustana College Day in Sioux Falls. Congratulations, Bob. Thank you very much. I'd like to ask for a motion and a second to approve tonight's consent agenda.
So moved, Litz.
Second, Entenmann.
It's been a motion by Councilor Litz, seconded by Councilor Entenmann to approve tonight's consent agenda. Is there any questions or comments on that tonight? Hearing none, if we can get a roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Brown,
Yes.
Entman,
Yes.
Erpenbach, yes, Jamison,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
That has passed 8-0. Thank you. Item number...
The approval of the regular agenda.
Can I get a motion to approve tonight's regular agenda, please?
So moved, Aguilar.
Second, Entenmann.
It's been a motion by Councilor Aguilar, seconded by Councilor Entman to approve tonight's regular agenda. Is there any discussion on that tonight? Hearing none, all those, if you could just have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Brown,
Yes.
Entman,
Yes.
Erpenbach, yes, Jamison,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you, City Council. That has passed 8-0. Folks, we would like to welcome you to tonight's City Council meeting. We do have a number of things on tonight's agenda where you will have an opportunity to speak freely to the men and women of the City Council. However, before that, we also offer you an opportunity to speak to the City Council in regards to an item that is not on tonight's agenda. Is there anybody who'd like to speak to the City Council tonight? Please, welcome. If you could just state your name, please.
Good evening. I'm Teresa Staley. You don't need the address anymore? No? Okay. Well, I'm here tonight because I wanted to say thank you to Mayor Huther and to those of you on the council who supported our Neighborhood Watch picnics last month. It was held on August 3rd, and it was a very hot and humid day, and the police department came around, and many of you participated, and this is just a fantastic program. I also wanted to thank and recognize Target, because they have been the national sponsor for the Neighborhood National Night Out for several years. And each year they give Sioux Falls a $500 grant, and that is passed among the neighborhood watch groups to use for their picnics, to spend for door prizes or for food. So it's a very generous gesture of Target, and I think they haven't really gotten the recognition that they deserve for that wonderful support for our neighborhoods. I wanted to I know as I visited with some of you, and I did try to reach out to invite all of you to come, I just wanted to give you a little background about the Neighborhood Watch. It was started in the 80s by our city, and when we got involved 14 years ago, we were told we could get signs. This one was provided by Stu Newhart, who unfortunately has deceased. He died this last year, but Stu graciously provided these signs from State Farm. And then I decided, and every neighborhood watch captain would say, this is the perimeter of the group, the watch group. We have these signs around. You'll see them around town. And the city did put them up for us. But it didn't cost the city a dime for this. And also, when we got involved, they had these little stickers. And I had to buy these from the police department for $1 a piece. And then I sold them to the neighbors at the picnic. And many of my neighbors have these in their window. And both of these are really visible signs that we care for one another and that, we're watching out. And I think as our city grows, this kind of a low-cost program is going to be more and more important. So I guess I'm here tonight to say thank you again for your support. And I hope that as we grow, that we'll continue to add vitality and life to this program and get more people involved, because it's really, really a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else in the audience who'd like to speak to the City Council? Sir, welcome. You just state your name, please.
My name's Tim Stanga. I just want to thank Kenny and City Council for what they're doing on the east side, trying to take care of the parks. You do see the police around a lot more, and things are a little bit better. The one complaint that I have is around my neighborhood is the school, is where the kids go out and walk up the street and throw garbage. They sit there and smoke. Get a lot of bad feedback on that, on the houses that the kids are hanging out with, and they're hanging in the alleys. And I'd like to see something worked on to be able to try to get that taken care of. I don't know if the principal at the school can maybe walk around and try to see if they can break up the groups of kids or whatnot. I'd be surely appreciated around the neighborhood.
Mr. Stinger, what school was that, please, just for the City
Franklin.
Council? Franklin. Okay.
I mean, it's a good thing for the kids, but there are a few bad ones, and we need it for the kids. So, I mean, I don't want to say it's a bad thing. I just want to say that a lot of the neighbors around there are complaining about the garbage and the huddles of kids that are hanging out in the, around the neighborhood when they have the chance to go out and have their cigarette or whatnot. My other question is, I guess we're going to find more about the entertainment center supposedly coming up today. I just want the city council to remember that, one, the economy's not the greatest. Sioux Falls is not sitting out like everybody thinks it is. I think that the unemployment rate's going to go up this winter, drastic, from what I see. I'm hoping that we look at this with, if nothing else, with baby steps, to be able to let people know the truth about what we're spending the money on, how we're going to spend the money, and to be able to let people know that, I don't know, we subsidize a lot of things in Sioux Falls. And either we start making some of these things that we subsidize, start making it, or you're going to have to find an alternative. Pavilion is a big sore in everybody's ears. And people get tired of it because, one, they don't go there, but yet they got to support it through their taxes or whatnot. Another thing that I hear around town, and I talk to a lot of people, with my job I can, is coming up with this rec center. You know, my daughter was in a cheerleading group. They didn't ask the city to come up and say, we want you to build us a facility so we can have cheerleading. They went out and they got $1 million loan, and they went out and did it on their own. They took a chance. But see, if you have a swimming group or a skating group or a hockey or whatnot, take a chance. Why put it back on the city to find out that, God, it's not going to make it, so let the taxpayers subsidize what they can't pay for? The cheerleading group went out, they're making it. They do fundraisers, they do everything they can to stay open. And I look at them as being one heck of a role model for Sioux Falls. Thanks.
Mr. Stinger, thank you very much. Appreciate your comments tonight. Anybody else in the audience who'd like to speak to the City Council? Well, thank you both for those comments. We appreciate it. We'll now move on to our unfinished business item.
Okay.
Mayor, I need to be excused.
Yes, thank you very much, Councilor Aguilar.
Okay, normally, council members under unfinished business, we approve all of it with one vote, but for tonight, we'll be approving each one individually. Item 15 is postponed definitely from August 16th, 2010 meeting, transfer of a 2010-11 retail malt beverage license from Youth Enrichment Services, Burnside Bingo, 1605 West Burnside Avenue, to Stanton Incorporated, the Log Cabin, to be operated at 1515 West Burnside Street. Conditional use permit not required. This is in addition to an existing license which predates the ordinance.
Thank you, Tamara. Lori Hugstead with the City Attorney's Office. This ties in with item 16, and item 15 is, of course, transferring the beer license from Youth Enrichment. And the next item would be transferring the beer license back to the Log Cabin along with video lottery. So the purpose of these two items is basically to move video lottery machine placements from one location to the other. The applicants in both cases have complied with all city ordinances and state laws. And just one other item to note, that there's two criteria for denying an alcoholic beverage license, whether it be in this case or any other one that may come before you, and those two are the character of the applicant and then suitability of location. I can certainly answer more questions. I know we have representatives from Youth Enrichment here, and I believe there might be some others as well if you have questions.
We would like to open up for any public testimony. First of all, we'd like to start with those who are opposed to this transpiring. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak in opposition? Please come forward, sir, and just state your name.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Gage, and I thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, for allowing us to speak on opposition to this. I I stand before you representing the Sioux Falls Noon Sertoma Club, which operates the Sertoma Charity Bingo Hall at 506 North Kiwanis Avenue. And I guess our view on this raises three questions in our mind that we would like the council to take into consideration before voting on this. A, as these license transfers on 15 and 16 take place, it is our understanding that the log cabin currently has 5 machines, and that if this were to be approved, would that limit Burnside Bingo to 5 machines? Because otherwise it would be an addition, in our view. 2, does this open up in any way a Pandora's box that allows other agencies to apply for transfers between sources to get more machines in? Example, if we were to come up with a transfer solution to allow us to get beyond 10 machines by transferring some licenses around within our properties. And I guess the third question we have is, how does this affect the longstanding 2,000-foot rule that affects things, since, you know, the locations in question here do reside within 2,000 feet of a city park and within multiple video lottery establishments, which are very heavily populated, including ours within the West Sioux District. So we would like your consideration of those questions, and we appreciate your time.
City Council, in the spirit of trying to answer Mr. Gage's questions now, would it behoove us to have Lori come up or Dave Fifley address these now? Thank you.
I think so. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lori, would you mind? Thank you. Mr. Gage, thank you.
All right. The first question was that the log cabin currently has 5 machines, and would we limit youth enrichment services to 5 machines? No. The state law allows 10 machines per location, and businesses change their number of machines throughout the year. When I do renewals for instance, this fall I'm getting ready for liquor renewals, I may have on record that a certain business has 8 machines. But then I request a report from the state lottery office of the actual numbers, and they've taken 2 out and they actually have 6. So there's always a fluctuation in the number of machines, and I don't think that we can limit the number of machines because the state law allows 10. And what we're allowing is placements, not necessarily number of machines. And this would be considered one placement. The second one, would other agencies go beyond 10 machines? No. The state law only allows 10 machines per location, per address. And third, how would this affect the 2,000-foot rule? Well, the reason that the 2,000-foot rule does not apply in this case is because this is a transfer. It's not a new video lottery placement. If youth enrichment came to us instead and said, we would like to add 10 machines to our location, they wouldn't even get this far, because I would show them the map and that they did not meet our city ordinances, and that would be the end of the conversation. So hopefully that answers those 3.
Councilor Jameson.
Lori, I know one of the questions I think you might have touched on, but was the Pandora's box question about whether others would now use this as a mechanism to transfer. And I guess you answered that, but has this ever happened before?
Not in Sioux Falls, it has not. This is the first time this has come before us in Sioux Falls. I did talk to the State Revenue Department today because she had mentioned that this had happened in other towns or cities within the state, and I asked her, well, about how many? And she thought it was about 3 to 4 establishments that had done the same procedure within the last couple of years, and they were all in cities that limited video lottery placement in one form or another.
Councilor Gibson, please.
Do any of those other towns have the 2,000-foot rule, or what were their limiting factors?
I don't know what their specific factors were. She doesn't keep a separate list of those types of situations, but, you know, in some of the other cities that I've looked at, what their ordinances are, some have distancing regulations, some are regulated by population. For instance, they might take the number of video lottery in their city at this moment and their population and say, you know, no more than 1 per every 1,000 people. And that means no more could be added unless some were taken away. And so different cities have different types of resources of restricting video lottery.
Are there any other opponents to tonight's action on number 15? Anybody who's opposed to it? Is there anybody who's in favor of this item tonight who would like to speak to the City Council? Miss? Can you just state your name, please?
I'm Karen Fogus. I'm with Youth Enrichment Services.
My name's Tom Loof. I'm the chair of the board.
I just wanted to share some thoughts with you. Yes, is part of a community serving children and families since 1989, and we now at this time serve about 1,300 children every day, ages birth to age 12. We've been working with the community for nearly a year to assess the need for a Boys and Girls Club in our community. The response to that has been extremely favorable, but salted with caution about how we might fund this kind of an endeavor, a non-fee-based endeavor. Burnside Bingo has been a YES fundraiser since 1978 for the Girls, Inc., and then later for Youth Enrichment Services. This sale, this transfer, would be a win-win for the seller, who is eager to sell. We've had an opportunity to purchase this video lottery license via a trade with the owner of the log cabin. Our neighbors, Jono's and the American Legion, do not have a problem with the transfer. They're the closest to our proximity. They seem to realize that our clientele is different from those that go and enjoy their facilities. Rather than go into a private pocket, this opportunity will assist us in helping our kids. And I couldn't help but think about it when Mr. Stang had talked about the children in his neighborhood and the challenges that they're having. Those are exactly the kinds of kids that we do work with now and wish to continue to work with as they go from 12 to 18 years old. Burnside Bingo has traditionally been Youth Enrichment Services' only fundraiser, and yes, is attempting to diversify in the face of a smoking ban and the Iowa casino. As we have spoken with several council members, you have commented on our efforts to be innovative and entrepreneurial to support our services to kids in our community. We've been in the fortunate position to avoid asking the City of Sioux Falls for funding, which also impressed members that we visited with. The transfer does not violate Sioux Falls ordinances. And our main competitor, also a nonprofit organization, has operated video lottery with bingo for many years.
I think in summary, our video lottery is compatible with our bingo business. All we're trying to do is move 500 feet, move those video lottery machines that are in play 500 feet, and instead of benefiting a private entity, it's going to be benefiting a nonprofit. And we will do good things with those profits. Our intentions are good. We realize that there is a group that's not happy that this is happening, but we hope you understand they are a direct competitor. And we'll just look at it for its merits, and it appears to be legal. And again, we thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Karen. Anybody else who's in favor of this action tonight? Seeing none, I'd like to ask, is there a motion from tonight's City Council? Councilor Jameson?
If I could, another
Please.
question for Lori. Yeah, you thought you were going to get off easy. When you measure the distance from one business to another, what lines is it? What part of the property line do you use as that originating distance?
Well, the way that the ordinance reads is it's the property line, but if it's in a strip mall, for instance, it's the edge of the tenant space to the edge of the, say there's two strip malls, and it happens to be in the middle of the strip mall in one and the end of the strip mall in the other. They measure from the point of where their particular business starts to the other strip mall to where their business starts. Otherwise, it would just be property to property, and that is also how we measure for the schools and the parks.
In this case, you would be measuring from the property line. Is that right? Burnside Bingo?
Yes.
I've got this email that you sent with the revised or
The map.
enhanced map of several locations. Do you have that you could put on the screen by chance to...
I do. Somewhere here. Oh, thank you.
What I wanted to look at was the distance between the log cabin and the Burnside Bingo. I just want to make sure you're using, I see where you've got the dots right on the business, but is it truly 500 feet from the parking lot edge?
I didn't put this together,
Okay,
so I
fair
cannot attest to the fact that it's exactly property line to property line. It was put together by our GIS department, and I just asked her to show me distancing and so on. So it could be building to building. I mean, if you take away a little bit of property on each one, you're probably going to end up, what does it show, a little over 500?
Right, 507?
Yeah. I couldn't tell you exactly where she measured to exactly where she ended up.
Because I'm just, yes,
Please. Miss, would you come to the podium, please? Sorry. Just on the benefit of the people of Sioux Falls.
Absolutely. We did measure it, and from parking lot to parking lot, it was between 150 and 160 feet. We have a big parking lot.
sorry, Karen, 100 and 150 feet from the edge of your parking lot to the edge of the log cabins parking lot, or that whole complex there?
To the log cabins. It's hard to define because they're in part of a trailer park area.
Is that your parking lot?
That's
that
our
he's
parking
pointing
lot.
to? So, and your
Yes.
building's where the star is, so you do have a big parking lot then.
Yes.
And I
Right.
don't know what the log cabins parking lot is like. It's pretty small, isn't it?
Just when I was reviewing this, I thought, the whole undue concentration effect here that we're trying to avoid, kind of already have it.
Right.
And then the idea of 500 feet is different than 100 or 150 feet. I mean, we're talking, pretty close still. That's why I was just trying to be definitive on the lines so that I wasn't over-exaggerating just exactly, really, technically how far we're moving this.
Yeah. I couldn't tell you exactly.
Right.
That's just what I've got.
Karen, thank you again. Councilor Entman.
Lori, I just have a question for you, too, if I
Sure.
might, please. The 2,000 feet thing. The bottom line is that if Youth Enrichment Services, if they were to ask for an application, correct, they could not do it because what is already there, they don't fall within those guidelines.
That's
But you
cor-
said they could take in, so say if somebody else had a malt beverage license with video lottery elsewhere in town, could there be arrangements reached with them, too, to be able to move that, or is that different?
Well, you know what, we would look at each case on a case-by-case basis, and if another request would come in, the first thing we would do is we have a checklist that I work with the Planning and Zoning Office, and that's our very first step. And that checklist, determines if the zoning is correct, if they need to go through a conditional use process, because even though some of these are already establishments and have been there, if they have received a conditional use permit, they may have received it for a certain applicant only. So that's always our first step, and that determines the next step. Do they need to go through the Planning Commission meeting? Is everything in order to go ahead and process the transfer? So yes, it's conceivable it could happen again, but we would look at each one on a case-by-case basis, and then you would have the option of determining more likely than character of applicant suitability of location.
Okay.
In each case.
Councilor Anderson, Jr.
Lori, I think I was knowing where Councilman Jameson might have been going as far as a cluster of licenses, but don't we have other areas like West 12th Street, East 10th Street, where we have
Yes.
a cluster
If
of...
you look at the map I have hanging up in my office, it's a trail of Minnesota Avenue, 41st Street, 12th Street. Yeah, there's large clustered areas in the city,
Thank you.
very much so.
Councilor Urbanbach.
You know, and I understand the clustering idea, and that because the 2,000-foot rule allowed some of those businesses to be grandfathered in, that, well, we maybe should just let it slide because it's already there. I think we need to take into account really the precedent that this could set, that if we allow a trade like this to happen, that we're going to be dealing with this more frequently than we may like to deal with it. And I have to share with you some of the comments that I've received from people via email and via phone are overwhelmingly telling me to vote no on this, that it sets a poor precedent for us to, even though it's been done 3 or 4 times in the state, it's only been done 3 or 4 times. There might be a reason that's happening too, that this isn't a good choice and that it sets us up for a slippery slope. I would vote no.
Councilor Wolfing.
Lori, can you tell me, the 2,000-foot rule also talks about schools and parks, right?
Right.
So all of these have been grandfathered in to that?
They
too,
have.
Because we've got Axtell Park and we've got parks.
Yes, that's a good question. You know, when video lottery first started in the 80s, there were no restrictions in place as far as location, other than they had to be in the right type of zoning, but there were no restrictions. And the first that I can remember is we had about a dozen places that ended up being what we call the side-by-sides, where they were in a strip mall and they had, you know, two suites, and so it was the same owner, the same business, they just ran them two, and they had 20 machines in the two sides. And that was the first time at that time that the City Commission decided they could start to see a pattern and began to put in place some distancing requirements. And if I remember correctly, the first one was 350 feet, which was, I believe, about a city block. And that changed over time, and I know at one time even the City Council had put a moratorium on beer and wine licenses just to figure out where this was going, because they were coming in fast and furious. And then we actually had requirements similar to what I mentioned before about population, where the commission at that time took the number of machines in the city and the population and limited to that many only. And then for whatever reason, they went back to the distancing requirements instead, and that leads us to where we are at 2,000 feet. So many of those places along 12th and 41st in Minnesota, you know, those all came to be before we had any type of distancing requirements in the city.
So we're still back to they're grandfathered in.
Well, yeah, technically, yes. There's a lot that were grandfathered in if you look at it that way, yes.
Councilor Jameson.
I just wanted to maybe add on to Michelle's comment that there is a concern here about setting a precedent.
Yeah.
And moving forward, and then everybody who has a liquor license, but then it's a game changer, I think, in the whole market. It's a funny thing here that Pandora's box, as it was referred to, is maybe one way of saying it. But I'm wondering, I think you've made other comments in here, and I don't think you even have a recommendation for us, or do you have a recommendation
No,
on this
I do
issue?
not have a recommendation.
Do you sense, though, just in your professional opinion, that this is the beginning of a slippery slope of other issues to come, and we would just find ourselves saying, well, you did it for them, why wouldn't you do it for us? And we would have to defend that.
That's a tough one to answer. I mean, I have had a couple comments in that regard that a lot of people will be coming forth, but how many is a lot? You know, what is that based on? I don't know. I guess personally I've had one request that they have actually called and asked me about a somewhat similar but not exactly the same situation, but I've only had one call so far.
Certainly. Just speak your name, please.
My name is Alex Hallback, and I guess my comment is that Lori did mention two specific instances where the city can step in and kind of have a comment, and one of those is just proper placement. I know that the discussion is heading in the direction of whether this is a slippery slope, and I think if you look at other places around the state that have had a similar situation, has that created a slippery slope in those communities where they've allowed a transfer or something similar to that nature? Lori also stated that she's had one phone call with a similar situation, not a huge slippery slope. And I think that in this one you have to look at what your ordinances are on the book and what they read right now. If at a later date the city council determines that this is something that they want to address, then by all means they should, adjust or make a change in the ordinance to address that. But at this point in time, I don't think that there's anything that can be said to prevent this transfer. I'd also wonder how the city can just rectify the state law that talks about additional criteria for on-sale alcoholic beverage license in video lottery establishments. This provides a criteria for which cities can regulate, or gives those is actually the law that gives them that right to limit the proper placement. And it says in there, an existing video lottery license may not be denied renewal or transfer based upon the criteria set forth in this section. And it goes on to state, the number of licenses in the area, the type of businesses or manner. So I just don't know how you can, rectify the law on point that talks about a transfer in this respect. So I just want the city to think about that also. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. There's no other public testimony. Would the City Council like to make a motion for or against this item?
I move that we approve. Entenmann?
Second, Anderson.
There's been a motion by Councilor Entenmann, seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr. to approve item number 15. Is there any further discussion on this item tonight? From the City Council, yes. Councilor Rolfing?
Yes. Gil, could you comment on Alex's last statement there about the state law?
Well, I need to see what he's got there. I'm not sure what he has. Where he's reading from. Oh, sure, it's awful small, Alex.
You want my glasses?
I have them, but I try not to have to put them on.
And Lori, too. I don't know if Gail would be able to
maybe
assist
Gail
you.
better come up and... Is this...
We're all battling over law degrees here.
Oh,
but,
I think you're reading out of the state video lottery ordinances. Is that what Chapter 42 is? It's not the alcohol section. 42, 7.
Well, this reads, a municipality or county may consider, in addition to the criteria for the issuance of an on-sale alcoholic beverage license, the following criteria for authorizing video lottery machine placement in establishments issued an on-sale alcoholic beverage license. And one of the factors that the council can consider is the number of establishments currently licensed for video lottery, the proximity of the business to other establishments licensed for video lottery.
And it goes on to say that they can use that as a criteria for a transfer. An existing video lottery license may not be denied renewal or transfer based upon the criteria set forth in this section. So it would be the proximity to other businesses, the other areas.
Well, that would be in conflict, or I guess you could say in conflict or juxtaposition with the criteria under another state law that the council consider the suitability of the location, which under case law from the South Dakota Supreme Court has been interpreted very broadly, I would say. So I guess at best you got a conflict here. in one statute versus another. And I would say that we're acting on an alcohol license actually transfer. So I would argue that the suitability location statute is more specific to this particular application before the City Council than the statute that Alex is citing.
I just wondered how you might rectify that. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the city councilors before they vote? Yes, Councilor Jameson?
I would just want to make a comment that I struggle with the 2,000-foot rule and the idea that this is transferring into it and that the setting a precedent, but I still feel like we're only moving this a couple hundred feet at most. The concentration's already there. I think if we had a blatant attempt of somebody to get inside this window, or I would probably think of it differently, but I guess I'm more inclined to be in favor of this just because it's such a minor move. But just a comment.
Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmembers Brown?
No.
Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
No.
Jameson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Rolfing?
No.
Anderson Jr.?
Yes.
That has passed 4 votes to 3. Item number 16.
Item number 16 is postponed definitely from August 16th, 2010 meeting. Transfer of a 2010-11 retail malt beverage license from Stanton Incorporated, The Log Cabin, 1515 West Burnside Street, to Youth Enrichment Services Burnside Bingo to be operated at 1605 West Burnside Street, including video lottery terminals with the conditional use permit 2002-0303 being approved on June 12, 2002.
Roy? Any
Okay.
further comments on this?
No further comments. This corresponds with item 15.
Are there any further comments from anybody in the audience in regards to this item? We'd like you to start with those who are opposed to this. Anybody in favor of this who'd like to speak to the City Council? City Council, would anybody like to make a motion in regards to this item?
Move we approve Entenmann?
Second, Anderson.
There's been a motion by Councilor Entenmann, seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr. to approve item number 16. Any discussion from the City Council? Hearing none, if I could have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Brown?
No.
Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
No.
Jameson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Rolfing?
No.
Anderson Jr.?
Yes.
That has passed 4 to 3. Item number 17.
Item 17 is a special one-day malt beverage license and special one-day wine licenses for the Sioux Falls Area Humane Society to be operated at Landscape Garden Center, 7201 South Minnesota Avenue, for the Pause to Celebrate fundraiser on October 2nd, 2010.
I received a call from the Humane Society, and they wish to withdraw this event at this time. They were ready to go, and there's another citywide fundraiser about 3 weeks before this, and so they're going to reschedule it for this spring, and I'll bring that back before you, and we'll start it over. So no action, just withdrawn.
Item 18, please.
Item 18 is a special one-day malt beverage and special one-day wine licenses for downtown Sioux Falls to be operated at Shriver Square, Suite 102, downtown Sioux Falls office and lobby, 230 South Phillips Avenue for the Wine Passport Wrap-Up Party on September 15th, 2010.
I can answer questions on this, or else Jennifer Schmidt-Bauer with Downtown Sioux Falls is here as well.
Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak to this item tonight? City Council, any questions, or would anybody like to make a motion?
I would move approval, Erpenbach.
Second, Anderson.
Councilor Erpenbach has made a motion to approve, seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr. on item number 18. Any further discussion, City Council? If I could have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Thank you. Item number 19.
Item 19 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property between 8th and 10th Streets and Blauvelt and Maple Avenues from the C2 General Commercial District and the RD Residential District to the RA1 Residential District, petition number 2010-0705, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
Good evening, Mike Cooper representing Planning and Building Services along with Steve Randall tonight. This is a petition brought to us by Communication Services for the Deaf, the owner of this property, which is approximately 3 acres of land area directly west of the School for the Deaf campus. The property is currently vacant. It is surrounded by one existing single-family residence on the west side and then 2 commercial buildings on the south side. The petitioner is proposing to develop this vacant land into multifamily residential property. The proposed development plan shows a total of 6 buildings that will each have 8 units of apartments. The apartments will be two-bedroom units of approximately 858 square feet per unit. They'll be provided with 48 garages in addition to 54 surface parking stalls. The rents that we've been notified will be somewhere in the range of $750 to $775 per month, although at this time that's an approximate range. We've also been made aware that the original site plan that was submitted to us, the developer has agreed to modify the unit that's in the northeast corner. Currently shows an access out onto 8th Street, and they have agreed to modify that to change the access over to Maple Avenue to provide for better safety of getting in and out of that area. The applicant has also made a petition to the city engineer's office for a vacation of 9th Street between Blauvelt and Maple, and that will be coming forward to the city council to set a date of hearing and also for future official action. They did hold a neighborhood meeting prior to the Planning Commission hearing, and the Planning Commission has made a recommendation to approve this zoning to multifamily residential. End of report.
Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak to this item tonight? Sir, welcome. If you'd just state your name, please.
My name is John Engelhardt of Architectural Guild. We're the architects for this particular project. I'm here tonight in behalf of the client. Mike Crane is also in the audience, and he represents the owner as an owner and owner's representative. What we're doing here is a small-scale regional development that is entitled, or not entitled, but is in fact interested in the development that is consistent with the environment around this particular development. There's small-scale residential. We intentionally kept the project 2 stories in height. We kept them small in scale so that they're not a large multi-story and 24 or 36 plex unit. We've kept them consistent with the neighborhood. We've in fact had two meetings with the neighborhood, and we discussed this on 2 different occasions, one on July 26th, another one on August 2nd. This represents what our intent is for the overall development. And yes, we will manipulate the northeast corner building to come off of Maple because of parking issues along 8th Street due to school and parents and students. Any questions from my end or from the owner, which is Mike Crane with us?
Councilor Litz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess this looks like a good project to me, a suitable location, all that, but I'm just curious here. This is the first time I've ever noted the amount of rent being proposed for these things. Is that germane to something that we're going to do down here?
I think probably the possibility of why that was mentioned was that has been a topic of discussion on 2 of the neighborhood meetings, and to try to ensure the fact that it was not going to become a subsidized housing facility in terms of that, Bob. So it's not going to be that type of project.
Thank you, John.
Councilor Urbanbach.
I would just add to that, Councilor Litz, that was the one question that I had on when I had one person call me. That was their question, and their very big concern was what it was going to end up being. And I have to say the owners were very pleasant and easy to work with. It sounds like a great project.
Councilor Anderson Jr.
I attended the first neighborhood meeting that you guys had, and I thought it was just a great cooperation and listening session. And you guys heard what the neighbors said. From what I've seen of the buildings and everything, they should match that neighborhood, and I think it'll be a wonderful addition over there.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience who'd like to speak to this item tonight? City Council, would you like to make a motion?
So move, Anderson.
Second, Entman.
It's been a motion by Councilor Anderson Jr., seconded by Councilor Entman on item number 19. Any further discussion? If I could have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Brown?
Yes.
Entman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That has passed 8-0. Thank you, City Council. Item number 20.
Item number 20 is public hearing for public input for resolution adopting the budget for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2011, and the 2011-2015 capital program.
Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to address the City Council tonight? Hearing none, item 21.
Item 21 is a resolution authorizing the director or assistant director of the Public Works Department to sign grant agreements and contracts.
Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak to this? Sir, welcome. Your name, please?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Mark Cotter with the Office of Public Works. This item is to allow the streamlining process when we process the grants, specifically for the solid waste. And the 2 grants that we currently have for the landfill require a tire cleanup, and they're also funding a large portion of the expansion of the household hazardous waste facility. This is a common ordinance now for about the last 3.5 years, and in coming years, when we update SRF loans, we'll also be bringing a very similar resolution forward for you.
Anyone else in the audience who'd like to speak to this item? Councilor Jamison? Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved, Aguilar.
Second, Erpenbach. I was going to say, Councilor Aguilar and I toured the landfill recently and had an incredibly educational day, and I'm excited that these grants are helping us move that process forward.
Thank you. Councilor Aguilar had the motion to approve, seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. Thank you very much for the commentary as well. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmembers Brown?
Yes.
Entman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson Jr.?
Yes.
Thank you, City Council. That has passed 8-0. Item number 22.
Item 22 is a resolution amending the 2010-2014 capital program to add a project, family park improvements.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Don Kearney with Parks and Recreation. This project, a resolution actually adds the family park project to our 2010 capital program. The reason why we're requesting the addition of this program would be to allow us to construct some improvements as a result of the heavy rainfall that we received at the end of July. We had a few breaches actually as a result of the flows that go through Cherry Creek, which is just on the southwest corner of Family Park and the ponds that we have there. And as a result, the creek actually flowed through the berm that we had established on that southwest corner of Family Park, and it actually breached the southeast corner as well as a small portion in the northeast corner of the ponds. And so after that happened, we met with representatives from Game Fish and Parks and felt like that we really needed to put a project together to resolve that issue, because we more than likely will have significant rainfall in the future, and we just want to have something that's going to really be a long-term project. One of the things that we did was identify funding. Game Fish and Parks and our department did have a project that was scheduled for 60th Street North for improvements in that area, a new fishing access location there. This project really redirects those funds towards Family Park, so that we're not requesting any additional funding. We're just reallocating the funding from one project to another, and then we would reprogram the 60th Street North fishing access improvements at a future date. And so ultimately, this project would provide the engineering services as well as the construction dollars to permanently stabilize those banks. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak to this item first before I address the City Council? Councilor Entman.
Hi, Don.
Hi.
The park has had exceptional use, though, since it was donated to the city, correct, Don?
Yeah, it's phenomenal, the amount of use that we've had out there.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Can I have a motion to approve or not approve?
I would move approval, Urbanbach.
Second, Entman.
It's been a motion by Councilor Urbanbach to approve, seconded by Councilor Brown. Is there any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, if I could have a roll call vote, please.
Council members Brown?
Yes.
Entman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Thank you. Item number 23.
Item 23 is a resolution amending the 2010-2014 capital program to move the collection system flow metering improvements project from 2011 to 2010.
Good evening again, Mayor and City Council. Mark Cotter with the Office of Public Works. Just have a few short slides here to give you a picture of what moving up this project is. But first, would like to recognize Trent Lubers. He is the Division Manager for Water Reclamation. Trent's been the key behind the comprehensive review with the wastewater system. He's also had a very intense 60 days, so thank you, Trent. Okay, next slide, please. One of the key things that we've been planning to do is to put some smart devices in our collection system so we can start to identify some large inflow areas. What you see on the map is off to the right-hand side, that's the Tut Hill Lift Station, and the dark green lines, those are really the large interceptors that collect the wastewater out of those respective neighborhoods. If you look close, there is some black lines that delineate some things we call subbasins. And what we want to do is take a look at the amount of wastewater that should be coming from those subbasins and then measure its flow before it gets into the large interceptor sewer. And so we would, this resolution would allow us to buy 20 meters that we would place in these tributary lines as well as the large line as it gets to Tut Hill. And once we identify where our largest areas of inflow is, we'll work our way up into that basin and try to take off as many inflow and infiltration sources as we can. Next slide. This is just a picture of what that looks like in with a cutaway. It's a flow meter, and it will also have cell phone technology that will read the flow every 15 minutes. Next slide. And the next two slides are pictures out of your capital book. And the first one is page 239 out of the 2010 to 2014 capital book. We were planning on starting this flow monitoring program in 11, 12, and 13. And essentially what we'd like to do is start that 4 months sooner. While the weather's nice, we can go out there, open these manholes, place them when the weather's nice. And so this would amend the plan to move both those dollars forward. Next slide. is just to show you that the capital plan that's in front of you just essentially brought these 3 years forward as we would normally work the project forward through the CIP. So this is page 204 out of the current draft plan that's in front of you. And next slide. And that's the basis of it. Again, it's a key step in the comprehensive review of the system that we're currently undertaking as a part of the secondary items after we make the pipe repair to the sewer that collapsed. I can answer any questions.
Councilor Jameson.
Mark, how many meters? 20?
The first purchase would be 20.
So how much are they a piece? I didn't do the math, but...
Well, it would, I think with installation, they're approximately 15,000.
And then you could move them along afterwards. They're portable enough to so you could reset them in a different area and reuse them, and
that's right.
Use that same information to gather. And you say they were cell phone technology?
Just so we can actually there's really two ways to read flow meters. Is you either go out there, open the manhole casting, and plug a data logger into a laptop, and you download the data from whatever it was, a day, a week, a month, or you pay a little bit more and you have real-time flows. And next time that you're out at the water reclamation facility, you'll see that it's very computerized. We can monitor and run the plant from computers, and so this is what we're used to, and it just will allow us to accomplish much more efficiently, to have the cell phone technology as opposed to sending people out in inclement weather and getting data is somewhat disjointed. But either way, we certainly need the meters, and that's the way we'd like to go.
Is there ever any possibility of each home ever being metered for their discharge? Not with this technology, but with just some other. Do any other communities do that?
Boy, not that I'm aware of. And just maybe as a point of information, the way you get billed for your wastewater is we look at what the average flow is for November, December, January, and February, because those are months that you're typically not out watering the lawn or irrigating a garden or something of that nature. So that, for most part, averaging 4 of the 12 months gives us a good baseline flow of what the respective homes in that subbasin will do. We'll identify what that baseline is, and then we'll set some parameters. Once we start getting some of the initial data, I would expect we'll start setting some data that says if we get more than 35% of that baseline flow, we're going to look at that area. Now, if we've got some that are, say, 100%, we know we've either have some pumpers, cracks in the pipe, or cracks in manholes, or a combination of all three. And regardless, that's when we're going to target the highest inflow infiltration subbasin so we can just be much more efficient. Right now, what we do is we take stab readings and then do calculations, and this is just much more accurate.
Just one last question. I really do kind of enjoy this public works underground kind of stuff, but have you ever taken the amount of water that you sell to the city and all of its users and do a meter reading of all the output and do a net effect of how much was either additionally discharged or was not discharged? I mean, do you ever do anything like that to kind of...
Trent and his team do compare that. So essentially what you're saying is the water that's coming out of the wastewater, out of the water plant, water purification plant, and the amount of water being received at the water reclamation plant, is there a gap? There'd certainly be a gap just from just domestic use, or and so we do have that data, and they do look at that. But there's so many other infiltration and inflow points and there's things like filling pools and fighting fires and things like that, that some of those become estimates if there's not meters on some of those things. So, but I will say that the utility metering division tracks that very closely, and we can provide some of that data if you're ever interested.
Councilor Anderson, Jr.
Mark, since we're moving this project up and you didn't show us moving any other project back to balance us out, how are we going to pay for this project then?
Well, we're in a decent place right now with cash position of this utility, and essentially, we've looked at where we're currently at. We've ran the numbers out for the end of the year. If we expect basically the same flows to come in, we know what our operating costs are going to be. We have a good sense of what our capital projects are, and our pooled cash at the end of the year will be very good, and so we feel confident. And the other piece of this is that with this action tonight, it's after Friday, there's another 20 days before we're able to actually move forward, and then it'll be 2 weeks for the first 10 meters, another 2 weeks for the next 10 meters. So we're getting much closer to that January 1st time frame. We would just like to do it now as opposed to in January weather. So, Councilor, it's going to be very close to what we were already anticipating in our utility models.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak to this item tonight? If I could have a motion to approve, please, or not approve, sorry.
So move Anderson.
Second, Litz.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve. It was seconded by Councilor Litz. Any further discussion on this item? If I can, Deborah, in this background, are they allowed then to purchase it immediately? Okay. Mr. Cotter, I don't know if you heard that, but according to not only Deborah but also Dave, you will, if this passes, you'll be able to purchase them immediately.
Thank you. We did talk about asking to waive the 20 days, and so I appreciate the clarification. We'll purchase them very soon.
If it passes.
If it passes.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Brown?
Yes.
Entman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
It did pass. Thank you very much. 8-0. Item number 24, please.
Item 24 is a report of August 30th, 2010, Notice of Transfer of Appropriations within Major Organizational Units, Memo 1. Okay. Item 25, Report of August 30th, 2010, Notice of Transfer of Appropriations within Major Organizational Units, Memo 2. Report of August 30th, 2010, Notice of Transfer of Appropriations within Major Organizational Units, Memo 3.
Thank you. Are there any other new business items or items that the City Council would like to discuss?
You know, Mr. Mayor, I was talking with a couple of people between meetings about this, and so I'll just say it out loud. For those folks who don't understand what those reports are, SiouxFalls.org. All that information is there. It's perfectly legal, switching around money that is unencumbered and those kinds of things. And so SiouxFalls.org is your source for everything that you kind of background information.
Thank you, Councilor. Great job. Mr. Stenger, in deference to you, I think earlier on, you thought maybe there would be some testimony on the event center. Just so you know, at the 4 o'clock information, we discussed that item there. And there will be further opportunities to discuss that item. So I just want to make sure that you were aware of that. You were kind enough to see it in the meeting. So, thank you. City Council, any further items?
Move to adjourn.
Councilman Brown's made a motion to adjourn.
Second, Erpenbach.
Second by Councilor Erpenbach. If you just roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Entman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Thank you, City Council, and thank you, Sioux Falls.